It was a night unlike any other.
The rain fell relentlessly,
drenching the bustling city and washing away the faint traces of warmth that the sun had offered hours before. The skyline was a chaotic blend of shimmering neon signs and looming glass towers.
The luxury of the upper echelon shone brightly,
mocking the cold, damp alleys that twisted like veins through the poorer districts below. In one of those alleys,
a small food car stood under a flickering streetlight,
its humble presence a quiet testament to perseverance. The smell of steaming noodles and roasted meat rose above the heavy scent of wet concrete. The woman behind the cart moved with quiet determination, her swollen belly a visible reminder of the child she carried within. Her name was Lena. Lena had once dreamed of more of a life where her laughter did not echo through empty alleyways, where her hands did not crack and bleed from endless work. But dreams had long since been pushed aside by survival. Her family, ashamed by her pregnancy and the rumors that swirled around it, had cast her out. Her fiancé had vanished as soon as he learned of the child. Alone and burdened by the weight of 2 lives, Lena found herself here, selling steaming bowls of soup to passers-by who barely glanced her way. Tonight, the storm was particularly cruel.
Wind lashed at her face,
and water seeped into her worn shoes. She held onto the cart as if it were an anchor, refusing to let the night steal what little she had left.
Hot noodle, fresh soup,
she called out, her voice hoarse but steady. Most people hurried by, heads bowed, eyes fixed on brighter lights ahead. But in the shadows of the street, a car slowly rolled to a stop. It was a sleek black sedan, its tinted windows hiding whoever sat within. Lena did not notice at first, too focused on ladling soup into a battered paper bowl. But when the door opened and a man stepped out,
she felt a sudden shiver, something beyond the cold.
He was tall, dressed in a tailored coat that looked out of place in this part of town. His hair was dark, slicked back from a sharp, elegant face that was both striking and forbidding. His eyes, though, were what held her.
Icy blue, reflecting the flickering streetlight with an unsettling intensity.
This was Alexander Pierce. Alexander was a name spoken in hushed tones across boardrooms and charity galas alike. A billionaire in his early 40s. He was the head of the Pierce Corporation, a titan in real estate and finance. Rumors about him were as common as the gossip of his wealth. That he was ruthless in business. That he lived alone in a sprawling estate on the edge of the city. That his heart had turned to stone years ago after losing his wife and child in a tragic accident. He did not belong here. Yet here he was, staring at the shivering woman behind the cart. "Are you still open?" he asked, his voice deep and measured. Lena blinked, momentarily stunned. "Why, yes. Hot noodles, sir." He studied her face, her wet hair clinging to her cheeks.
The dark circle under her eyes.
The defiance in her posture despite the storm. Without a word, he reached into his coat and pulled out a wallet. The bills he handed her were crisp, far more than the price of a bowl of soup. "Keep the change," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "And make it hot." Lena's hands trembled as she accepted the money. She turned back to the pot, trying to focus on the familiar motions, ladling broth, adding noodles, sprinkling chopped herbs. But she felt his gaze on her the whole time, a weight that was both unsettling and oddly protective. When she finally handed him the bowl, he took it carefully, his gloved hands oddly gentle. He did not eat immediately, just watched her as she shivered and wiped rain from her brow. "You are pregnant," he said bluntly. She stiffened. Most people did not mention it either out of politeness or pity. But his tone was clinical, almost like he was stating a fact. "I am," she replied, her voice soft.
"Where's the fater?" Her eyes darkened.
"Gone." A muscle in his jaw twitched. He did not ask more. Instead, he took a sip of the soup, his expression unreadable. For a moment, the world around them seemed to hush the rain.
The distant traffic, the neon lights fading into nothing.
"It is good," he said finally, his tone almost surprised. Lena nodded, clutching her thin coat tighter around her. She wanted to ask him why he was here, why a man like him was standing in the rain eating street food from a cart. But she did not dare. She knew better than to pry into the lives of men who could buy and sell entire city blocks. He finished the soup quickly,
handing back the empty bowl.
Then he paused, his eyes dropping to her belly and the hand she had unconsciously placed there. "What will you do?" he asked quietly. She blinked back tears she had not even realized were there. "I will keep working," she said simply. "I have to," he did not respond. Instead, he looked past her.
I'm searching for something in the darkness of the alley.
His face was carved from stone, but there was a flicker so brief she almost missed it of something human. "I will have my driver take you home," he said abruptly.
Lena shook her head. "No, thank you.
I live nearby. I am fine," his eyes narrowed. "You are not fine," she flinched at the harshness of his tone. But then his expression softened.
Juste slightly. You are shivering.
"Let me help you," before she could protest. He signaled to the driver, a tall, broad-shouldered man in a dark suit who had been waiting silently by the car. The driver stepped forward, opening the rear door. Lena hesitated, but the cold was biting deep now, and her strength was ebbing fast. She climbed into the car. The interior was warm, the leather seats soft and welcoming in a way she had not felt in years. She sank into the seat.
Feeling the tension in her shoulder is just a little.
Alexander slid in beside her, the door closing with a quiet click. The city outside was suddenly distant, muffled by the thick glass. She could hear her own breathing, the soft hum of the car's engine. "Where to?" the driver asked. Alexander turned to her.
"Where do you live?"
She gave him the address of the tiny room she rented in a crumbling boarding house. He nodded, and the car pulled away from the curb. They rode in silence for a while. Lena stared out the window,
watching the neon blur past.
She felt out of place, like she had stepped into a story that was not hers. Finally, he spoke.
"You work every night?"
he asked. "Yes," she said quietly. "I have to. My family. They won't help me. And I have to save for the baby." He did not reply immediately, just studied her face in the soft glow of the overhead light. She could feel the weight of his gaze, the questions he did not ask. When they reached her building, he stepped out first, offering his hand to help her down. She hesitated only a moment before taking it. His grip was firm, warm despite the cold. He looked up at the building, a run-down structure with peeling paint and broken windows. A frown tugged at his mouth. "You should not be living here," he said flatly. "It is all I can afford," she replied, a trace of defiance in her voice. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Get some rest," he said. "I will see you again." She stared at him, confusion and fear warring in her chest. Why would you want to see me again?" His eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw something raw there, a shadow of his own pain.
"Buried deep."
"Because I believe everyone deserves a chance," he said quietly. And with that, he turned and stepped back into the car, the door closing softly behind him.
The black sedan pulled away into the rain-slicked night, leaving Lena standing alone in the flickering light of the street lamp.
She did not know why, but something inside her whispered that her life had just changed forever.
A dawn broke over the city.
The mansion stood bathed in golden light, its grandeur both awe-inspiring and intimidating. Emily awoke in a room unlike any she had ever seen, ornate ceilings, velvet drapes, and a view that stretched beyond the horizon. Yet, amidst the luxury,
a sense of unease lingered.
Downstairs, Alexander sat in his study, fingers steepled, eyes fixed on a portrait above the fireplace. It depicted a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile, his late wife,
Isabella.
Her memory haunted these halls,
A constant reminder of love lost and the void it left behind.
Emily's presence stirred something within him, a blend of protectiveness and an unfamiliar warmth. He found himself drawn to her resilience, her unwavering spirit despite the hardships she had endured. As days turned into weeks, a routine settled in.
Emily, ever independent,
insisted on contributing. She began helping the staff, learning the intricacies of the mansion, and even reviving the neglected greenhouse, infusing it with life and color. One afternoon, while tending to the roses, Emily discovered a hidden door behind a thicket.
Curiosity piqued, she venture inside.
Finding a room filled with musical instruments, sheet music, and journals. It was Isabella's sanctuary. Reading through the journals, Emily uncovered a side of Alexander she had not known, a man passionate about music, who once played the piano for hours.
Lost in melody.
But after Isabella's passing, the music ceased, the room locked away along with his grief. Determined to bridge the chasm of sorrow, Emily began to play the piano.
Her mélodie échoing through the mansion.
At first, Alexander listened from afar,
Memory flooding back.
Gradually, he joined her, their duets becoming a language of healing and connection. Their bond deepened, built on shared pain and newfound hope. Yet, the outside world loomed. News of Emily's whereabouts reached her estranged family, who saw an opportunity in her association with Alexander. They arrived unannounced, demanding she return and accusing Alexander of manipulation. Torn between her past and the life she was building, Emily stood her ground. She confronted her family, articulating the pain they had caused and her right to choose her path. It was a moment of liberation, a declaration of self-worth. Alexander, witnessing her strength, felt a surge of admiration and love. He realized that Emily was not just a guest in his home, she had become the heart of it. Their connection, forged through trials, was undeniable. However, not everyone approved.
Associate of Alexander,
wary of his growing attachment to Emily, began to interfere, fearing she might disrupt their influence. Whispers of betrayal and ulterior motives spread, casting shadows over their relationship. Amidst the turmoil, Emily discovered she was nearing her due date. The impending arrival of her child brought both joy and anxiety. She questioned her place in Alexander's world and the future they could build together.
One stormy night, complication arose.
Emily went into labor, and the mansion was thrown into chaos. Alexander, frantic, ensured she received the best care, staying by her side throughout the ordeal. After hours of labor, a healthy baby girl was born. Tears streamed down Alexander's face as he held the child.
A symbol of new beginning.
In the days that followed,
The mansion transformed.
Laughter echoed in the halls, the once somber atmosphere replaced with warmth and love. Emily and Alexander, bound by shared experiences and the child they now cared for, found solace in each other. Yet, challenges remained. The societal divide between them, lingering doubts, and external pressures tested their bond. But with open communication, mutual respect, and unwavering support, they navigated the complexities.
Emerging stranger.
Their story, a testament to resilience,
Love, and the transformative power of kin,
inspired those around them. It served as a reminder that even in the face of adversity, hope and connection could prevail. The summer sun painted the mansion in soft hues of gold, but beneath its picturesque facade,
tension simède.
the whispers that had once been mere murmurs now grew louder, seeping into every corner of Alexander's world. Emily felt it too. She could see the wary glances of Alexander's associates, the veiled words that hinted at something more sinister. Despite their outward civility, their presence was like a dagger waiting to strike. And in the midst of it all, Emily knew she had to protect her daughter.
No matter what.
One evening, while Alexander was away attending a meeting with his inner circle, Emily received an anonymous letter slipped under her door. Its message was brief but chilling. He is not who you think he is. Leave before it is too late. Emily's heart raced. She clutched the letter to her chest, her mind reeling with questions. Was it a warning, or a ploy to drive a wedge between them? When Alexander returned that night, she confronted him. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. Who sent this? What are they talking about? Alexander took the letter, his eyes darkening as he read it. He closed his fist around it, crumpling the paper. They are trying to manipulate you, Emily, he said softly. These men. They see you as a threat. They fear how much you mean to me. Emily wanted to believe him, but the doubt gnawed at her. She needed answers. She needed the truth. Days turned into weeks. and the mansion became a battleground of unspoken words. Alexander withdrew into his study for hours at a time, poring over old ledgers and dusty tomes. Emily, meanwhile, cared for their daughter, drawing strength from the child's innocent laughter.
One night, as thunder rumbled in the distance,
Emily could not sleep. She wandered the mansion's halls.
her thoughts at anglais web.
Passing by the music room, she heard faint strains of piano music. Drawn to it, she opened the door to find Alexander seated at the piano,
Playing a haunting melody.
He looked up at her, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. This was Isabella's favorite. He whispered, "I thought I would never play it again." Emily sat beside him, her hand resting on his. "You have been carrying so much pain," she said. "But you do not have to do it alone." For the first time, Alexander told her everything. Years ago, he had been a different man, ambitious, driven, but reckless. In his quest to build his empire, he had made deals with powerful figures, men whose loyalty was bought and whose morality was questionable. Isabella had seen the darkness in those alliances and tried to warn him. But Alexander, blinded by ambition, had not listened. Isabella's death had been an accident, but it was a direct result of the dangerous world he had embraced. "I have spent every day since then trying to atone for my mistakes," he said, his voice breaking. "And then you came into my life, Emily."
You made me believe in second chance. Emily listened in silence.
Her heart heavy. She saw the remorse in his eyes, the weight of his past pressing down on him. But she also saw the man he had become, a man capable of love, of kindness. She took his hand and said, "You are not the man you were."
And you are not alone anymore.
Together, they resolved to confront the threats head-on. Alexander reached out to trusted allies, people who had once owed him favors, people who understood loyalty. One by one, the men who had sought to manipulate and control him were exposed. Their schemes unraveled, their influence shattered. But the final blow came when Emily faced her family again. They had returned, emboldened by rumors of Alexander's supposed wealth and secrets. They demanded that Emily and her child leave the mansion, claiming she had no right to this new life. This time, Emily did not back down. "You sold me once," she said, her voice steady and clear.
You abandonned me to save yourself.
"But I am not your bargaining chip anymore. I have a family now, a real family. And I am never going back."
Her word cut through the silence like a blade.
Her family left, their greed exposed and their hold over her forever broken. The mansion, once a symbol of Alexander's past mistakes, became a sanctuary for them. Emily, Alexander, and their daughter filled it with laughter,
Music and love. The ghosts of the past still linger in the shadow.
but they no longer held power over them. In the end, their story was not about the opulence of the mansion or the secrets it held. It was about redemption, about the power of forgiveness, and about the courage to build something new from the ashes of what once was. As the sun set over the horizon, Emily stood at the balcony, holding her daughter close. Alexander joined her, his arm around her waist. "Do you think the past will ever truly let us go?" Emily asked softly. Alexander kissed her forehead. "The past shapes us, but it does not define us."
We write our own story now.
And with that, they turned away from the darkness of yesterday.
Stepping into the light of tomorrow together.
Years passed, and the mansion that had once echoed with the whispers of secrets became a home filled with music and laughter. Emily and Alexander raised their daughter in an environment where love and truth were the guiding lights. No longer prisoners of the past, they learned to cherish every sunrise,
Every key moment of joy.
Alexander rebuilt his business with a newfound sense of integrity. He no longer chased power for its own sake, but used his influence to support charitable causes, education for underprivileged children, shelters for those in need. His wealth was no longer a weapon or a burden, it was a means to bring hope where once there was none. Emily, too, found her purpose. She turned her experiences, the pain, the betrayal, the resilience, into stories she shared with women who had been forced to sell their dignity for survival. She helped them find their voices, their strength, and their freedom. Her gentle words became a source of healing for many.
A remandé det no mate audibles scarran.
There was always a path to redemption.
One summer afternoon.
The mansion hosted a gathering. Friends, allies, and those whose lives had been touched by Emily and Alexander's journey came together to celebrate.
The music room echoed with melody of hope, and the garden bloomed with color and life.
Their daughter, now a spirited young girl,
Ran through the gardens.
her laughter carrying on the warm breeze. She paused by the old oak tree, the same one Alexander had once retreated to in his moments of reflection. Looking up at the sturdy branches that had weathered countless storms, she called out to her parents.
Papa, Mama, comme si. Émilie and Alexander walked hand in hand.
Their steps sure and light. They joined their daughter beneath the oak's broad canopy, where she had found a tiny nest with newly hatched chicks.
Fragile and full of promise.
Look, she said, her eyes wide with wonder. They are so small, but they are safe here.
Alexander met Émilie's gaze.
A smile playing at his lips. Like us, he said softly. This tree has seen so much, yet it still stands tall. Emily leaned into him, her heart swelling with gratitude. And so will we, in that moment.
Benéat the ancien oak.
They made a silent vow, to honor the past, to nurture the present, and to build a future rooted in love. Because the greatest lesson they had learned was this.
No matter how deep the shadow of the past.
Light would always find a way to shine through. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the mansion and the lives it sheltered, Emily and Alexander knew they had finally found their home. Not in the walls of stone or the wealth that surrounded them, but in each other, in the laughter of their child, the music of their hearts.
And the qui est certainty d'être together.
They were whole.
The true ending.
Their story was not one of perfection, but of perseverance.
Not of a flawed life.
But of the unwavering belief that love, when nurtured with honesty and courage, could mend even the deepest wounds. In the end, they proved that redemption is not a single act, but a journey. And it is a journey worth taking, no matter how far you have to travel to find your way home.